Welcome back, everybody, to Niners Now. I'm your host, Brady Grustas, at GrustasBrady on X. You can follow me there. And today, I want to dive into what a trade package for Jauan Jennings might look like if the Niners do not decide to re-sign him. And stick around until later in the show where we'll continue looking through the 49ers roster and rank all 90 players on the team. Before we begin, go ahead and subscribe down below, leave a like, leave a comment, and let's get into it. So Adam Schefter tweeted on Tuesday that several teams have called San Francisco to ask about Jauan Jennings, but the Niners have no interest in trading him. This makes sense. Jennings was excellent last year, and the Niners don't like to get rid of good players for no reason, right? If they do, there's always going to be a reason for it. Jauan is a great wide receiver. He fits that bill, but what is his value really? He's not going to get an extension like Garrett Wilson just got with the Jets, right? Worth over $30 million per year. Unreal bag for Garrett Wilson. The Jets paid him. Jennings is not going to get that contract. I think his deal is going to end up looking a little closer to what Cooper Kupp got this offseason. Kupp just signed a deal with Seattle worth $15 million per year, and I think that's around the range that Jennings will get. If he's demanding more, if Jennings won't settle for less than, $20 million, let's say, I think you really have to consider moving him. Jennings is already 28, and he's been a role player his entire career before last season. When the Niners receiver room is all healthy, it's really difficult to justify paying Jauan Jennings over $20 million a year. There's just too many mouths to feed, and there's not enough targets to go around. And it's fine to have Jennings, right? That's a good problem to have too many good wide receivers. But when you're paying multiple of those wide receivers over $20 million a year, it just becomes unsustainable. I mean, we saw this with the Niners just now. They were paying Brandon Ayuk and they were paying Deebo Samuel, both around $20 million a year. And that was too much. They decided they had to move on from Deebo Samuel and get cheaper. So I really don't think that they're going to give Jennings this $20 million a year massive extension, right? I think it's more likely that if he wants that money, he'll get it from somewhere else. So let's say that Jauan is taking this opportunity and he's saying, no, I will not settle for any less than $20 million per season. Generational wealth for me and for my family, for my grandkids, etc., right? That's totally valid. I get it. But it's not going to happen here in San Francisco, I don't think. Not with the moves and the direction that the front office has shown that they'd like to take this team. So what would Jennings' value look like in a trade? I've got 3 trade packages today to check out. And the first one would be with the New England Patriots, okay? The New England Patriots. And I saw this one on X from @SavageSports, which is a Patriots fan account. The Niners, according to this trade, would send Jauan Jennings to the Patriots for a 3rd-round pick in next year's draft and wide receiver Kayshon Boutte. Now, the Patriots have a logjam at receiver, and they've been trying to upgrade that group for years now, since the Belichick era. They've got a bunch of young, talented guys, but not a ton of established veterans at wide receiver. It's really just Stephon Diggs, who they just brought in. So they flip one of those promising young guys, Boutte, for a reliable veteran with great hands and really excellent run blocking, being Jauan Jennings. The Patriots were also heavily interested in Brandon Ayuk, and they still have former 49er Kendrick Bourne on the roster, so clearly there's a lot of overlap in the kinds of receivers that the 49ers and the Patriots like. Bourne could be the player coming back to the Niners in this deal as well. He was linked to the Niners as a trade target this offseason, but Savage Sports picked Boutte, and so we'll go with that. I think Kayshon Boutte, Boutte spelled Boutte, by the way, I think he's a more valuable piece than Bourne at this point anyways. He's only 23 years old, and he was a 6th-round pick out of LSU, but he was an incredibly talented prospect, and he holds the record for the most receiving yards in a game in SEC history, with 308 yards against Ole Miss as a true freshman. That's unreal. That's an incredible game. Boutte is 5'11", 197 pounds, so, he's got a little thickness to him, a little bit of strength. He's not exactly frail, right? Not like a Dante Pettis type, if you will. Boutte had a mini breakout last year. He grabbed 43 receptions for 589 yards and 3 touchdowns. He's on an upward trajectory, and I think once he gets accustomed to the 49ers offense, he could really be a fun player. He's got a nice release off the line of scrimmage, he tracks the ball really well in the air, and he flashes some excellent route running, honestly. Plus, he can hold on to the ball while running over the middle of the field, which is, at this point, a requirement to play receiver for the 49ers. However, Kayshawn would join a crowded wide receiver room, to say the least, and I think either he would be limited in his own playtime or he would end up limiting a guy like Jacob Cowing or Jordan Watkins. While I do think they could use Booty earlier in the year, trading Jennings and getting back another receiver is a little bit tricky, right? The next trade offer that I've got, though, it does not get back a wide receiver. It's with the Detroit Lions. Ooh, yeah, would suck to see Jennings in the NFC, but Jauan Jennings would join Detroit in exchange for a 4th and a 7th rounder in 2026, plus another 4th rounder in 2027. This is one that I came up with personally. 3 draft picks for a 28-year-old receiver is pretty solid, kind of no matter how you slice it. Although, like I said, it would be brutal to see Jauan dominating in the NFC for another team quite as good as the Lions. But, the Lions have the cap space to pay him, and he's a perfect fit for that team. He's an upgrade over Tim Patrick, who's their wide receiver 3 currently, and he's better than their new rookie Isaac Tesla? Their new rookie Isaac, who they brought in the 3rd round last year, who they like quite a lot. He's gritty, and he's physical, and he is violent. He is all about that kneecap-biting culture that Detroit is building over there. Jennings blocking out wide for Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery and even Jameson Williams on some trick plays. Man, that is scary. Paying Jennings would make it probably a little bit trickier for the Lions to re-sign Jameson Williams, which is really the only major downside that I can see with this deal. But besides the Niners, there is just not a better fit in this league for Jauan Jennings than the Detroit Lions. This would be the dream fit for Jauan. The return might seem a little bit underwhelming with no players coming back to the Niners, but, keeping up a winning roster when you're paying a quarterback big money, that gets easier when you have draft picks, right? We saw how many draft picks the 49ers had this year, and they used every single one of them. Getting not only young talent, but cheap young talent is the easiest way to keep the success rolling. The Niners are expected to have 9 picks in next year's draft, and if they do this deal, they'll add 2 more, while also adding a 4th rounder in 2027. If you're not going to pay Jennings what he's asking for, this is a pretty decent return to move off of him, in my opinion. Now, the last trade package that I have for Jauan today involves sending him to the Tennessee Titans in exchange for safety Amani Hooker and a 6th round pick. Now, why would the Titans be interested in Jauan? Feels like a bit of a weird destination until you look at their wide receiver depth chart right now. It is ugly. You've got Calvin Ridley, who's a decent wide receiver 1, and then you've got some rookies like Shamari DK and Alec Iomenor, who are both solid, right? But outside of that, it's Treylon Burks, the ghost of Tyler Lockett, right? Van Jefferson is on this team, apparently. Jennings would immediately be the 2nd best receiver on this team, and he'd be a really reliable target for a young quarterback in the 1st overall pick, Cam Ward. Plus, as we mentioned before, Jennings is an asset in the run game with his blocking, and he would help this underrated offensive line make room for Tony Pollard and Tyjae Spears to run the rock. Above all, Jennings would bring attitude and swagger back to this team and infuse a lot of energy that the Titans have really been missing, especially on offense. If you're looking for identity and you want that identity to be physicality, Jauan Jennings is the perfect piece to add here. The Titans are not obviously getting Jauan for free. They'd have to give up their starting safety, Amani Hooker. So now let's talk about Amani, who would be coming back to the Niners in this deal. Amani's been with the Titans for 6 years, and he's this versatile kind of chess piece sort of safety, and he's someone who I could really see Robert Saleh liking. He had a really nice year last year, all things considered. He had 71 tackles, 5 interceptions, 2 forced fumbles, and an above-average coverage grade from PFF. According to Sports Illustrated, Amani Hooker was the Titans' quote-unquote best trade asset, And now that the Titans have added rookie safety Kevin Winston Jr., which a lot of people were really excited about, Amani should be even more available, right? You've got Kevin Winston in there from the draft, and you've also got Xavier Woods, who played pretty well for the Titans. So I think Amani should be available. Amani's on the last year of his deal, so if he doesn't play well under Robert Saleh, then the Niners can just let him go for no cost whatsoever, right? Just let him go. You're all good. But if he does play well, then you've got an opportunity to re-sign him and pair him up with Malik Mustafa, and there you go. There's your safety duo for the next, 3-4 years, however long you want to keep Amani on the deal. And this makes sense for the Titans too, right? They need a target. They might not be re-signing Amani Hooker if Kevin Winston plays well enough, so they get a really nice wide receiver in exchange for moving off of this expiring contract. And of course, the Niners will also get a late round draft pick as well. So if you don't end up re-signing Amani, then it's at least you didn't let Juwan go for nothing, right? Patriots, Lions, or Titans? Which is your favorite trade package in return for Juwan Jennings? I think I'll go with the Titans package. That's probably my favorite. I really love the idea of adding a potential long-term starter at safety, and Hooker played quite well for the Titans last year. If Juwan does end up traded, I'm sure he'll have plenty of interest from teams around the league. Schefter's already reporting about teams calling in. I had a bunch of different options while making up some trades for this video. I thought about sending him to the Steelers, to the Saints, to the Browns, and then, of course, there were the 3 teams that we did talk about. Let me know in the comments where you think Juwan Jennings will end up playing this season. But now it is time to continue the roster ranking series. Last time we made it all the way up to player number 80, which means today we're starting at number 79. Now remember, these are all my rankings and my opinions. If you think I'm wrong, feel free to let me know why in the comments. The goal is to learn a little bit about each of the players on the roster before we see them in training camp and in the preseason this summer. Now today's group of guys are all players who I think have a pretty good chance at a practice squad spot, but they would need, honestly, a really strong summer to make a play for the 53-man roster. At number 79, I've got UDFA linebacker Stone Blanton from Mississippi State. Blanton got the most guaranteed money out of any of the UDFAs the 49ers signed this offseason. He got $92,000 guaranteed, which is kind of a lot for an undrafted rookie, and it shows that the Niners really like Blanton, and they think he's got a shot to stick. Blanton is the highest rated UDFA on my list personally as well because of his best trait. His ability to diagnose plays is awesome. He's super smart and he's a super instinctive player as well. He does not hesitate whatsoever. He figures out the play and he's making his cuts. He's shooting through gaps. He's doing whatever he needs to do to make the tackle. Speaking of tackles, Blanton had 124 of them last year, which was good for second in the SEC. He's not a freak athlete by any means. I believe he ran a 4.61 40-yard dash, but he's really smooth, and he can get from sideline to sideline pretty easily. He navigates blocks really well, too. You can constantly see him ducking around and kind of dipping through offensive linemen while also having the power to run through a blocking wide receiver or a blocking running back or a tight end or whatever. He's a great fit for the Robert Saleh defense, and we'll see if his athleticism can translate to the NFL level because his brain and his instincts certainly should. Number 78 is Braden Willis, the tight end. Willis was a member of that awful 2023 draft class for San Francisco. He was a 7th-round pick, but he's stuck around, unlike his fellow tight end from that year, Cameron Latu. Sorry for bringing up the Cameron Latus of the world. Willis is an undersized kind of H-back / tight end / fullback sort of hybrid player, which is really good versatility, and the Niners usually like that. But the thing with Willis is he's sort of a jack-of-all-trades, master of none. He has not been a very effective blocker. He's had some drop issues, and he hasn't really impressed when he's on the field so far. He's mostly been playing special teams, and he hasn't exactly been amazing at that either. Willis's roster spot is definitely in danger this year, but if he has a big summer, I think he can earn that 3rd tight end spot. It's a wide open competition, and he would have to, play well to earn the spot, but I think it's an available spot, and he'll be competing with guys like Jake Tonjes and Mason Pline and those sorts of people. At number 77, I have a rookie, the 7th round pick, quarterback Curtis Rourke. Now, Rourke is honestly a pretty fun player, and I think he would have gone higher than the 7th round if he hadn't torn his ACL and then played through it during the college football season. You can see in his tape exactly when he starts wearing his big knee brace because he gets a lot more mobile after his torn ACL, totally understandably. Now, Rourke is a 24-year-old who led an upstart Indiana team all the way to the college football playoff on the back of an 11-1 record. That includes, obviously, a loss to Ohio State, but wins over Michigan and some other decent teams as well. Before Rourke's torn ACL, he actually had kind of some sneaky mobility to him, but he's definitely more of a pocket passer overall. He's got a decent arm, he makes good decisions, he's fairly accurate, and I think a pro comparison that I like a whole lot for Rourke's game is Kirk Cousins, which, of course, if you've been a Niners fan for a while, you know that means that Rourke is a great fit for the Niners system. Rourke is going to miss this entire year rehabbing his torn ACL, but once he's back, he should be competing for the backup quarterback job right away. At number 76, we have safety Jalen Mahoney. Now, Mahoney is an undrafted guy from last year who spent most of the year on the practice squad. He ended up getting the call-up for 3 games last year, but didn't make a ton of impact. He's a versatile safety who you don't always want playing the deep middle of the field, but he can play man coverage and he can wrap up, which is about all you can ask for from a depth safety. I think Mahoney's probably got another year on the practice squad coming up, but with how the safety room looks on this team, there is plenty of room for him if he impresses this summer. Number 75 is the free agent cornerback Dallas Flowers, who last played for the Colts and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Flowers is a 28-year-old corner who played real NFL snaps his rookie year when he played 13 games and got 1 start. His next year, he only played 4 games, but he started all 4. And then he spent half of last year with the Colts before getting cut and signing with the Buccaneers, playing very sparingly. Flowers is 6'1", he's got decent length, but he's most known for ending up on the wrong side of a viral highlight play. In the Colts Week 5 game against the Jaguars, Brian Thomas Jr. ran right by Flowers for a touchdown. Flowers dove to try and make the tackle, which was good effort, but he absolutely whiffed the dive, and he ended up all over Twitter. I saw him all over social media after that play. If you look up Dallas Flowers dive online, you should be able to find it pretty easily. Needless to say, I don't anticipate that Flowers is going to make the 53-man roster this year. The 74th best 49ers player is rookie wide receiver / returner Junior Bergen from Montana, FCS. Bergen was the last pick in the 49ers draft class this year, pick number 252 overall. He played receiver at Montana, but he's most likely going to be a return specialist at the NFL level. As Kyle Shanahan said, quote, "We took him as a returner, so we'll throw him in with the receivers and see how that goes, but we brought him here to be a returner and try to make the team that way," end quote. Bergen is one of the best return men in FCS history. He had 3 punt return touchdowns on only 10 returns last season. Over his last 3 years, he's had 8 punt return touchdowns and a kick return touchdown as well. The Niners haven't had a return touchdown of any kind since 2016, so they are clearly hoping that Bergen can end that drought. At number 73, I've got edge rusher Robert Beal Jr. Robert Beal was a 5th-round pick in 2023 out of Georgia, and he's made the active roster both years of his career so far. However, he's struggled to really make an impact coming off the bench. He's got 1 sack and 1 TFL in his career, and both of those came in his rookie season. Last year, he played in 14 games, and he made 17 tackles. Not very good. I just don't know if Beal gives you enough as a depth edge rusher to really justify keeping him on the 53. With the emergence of Sam Okwonu and the addition of Bryce Huff, I think Beal is really competing for his career at this point. I'd expect him to make the practice squad, but we'll see what happens this summer. Coming in at number 72 is wide receiver Tariq Owens. Now, Tariq, of course, is the son of legendary Niners receiver Terrell Owens, and he signed with the Niners as a UDFA last season and spent the year on the practice squad. He just was not NFL ready last year. He played at Missouri State in college, and it took him a while to kind of get his body right and really adapt to the speed of the NFL game. But he looked pretty nice in OTAs this year, and he's a name to watch for a potential summer breakout. He's got a really big body at 6'3", 200 pounds, and although he's not the fastest guy on the field, he does have some athleticism. Owens is definitely a project, right? But if he can continue his development, the Niners may have a really nice piece at wide receiver. He's definitely not just a Nepo guy. We've got a new guy here at 71. It's linebacker Chaz Surratt. Now, Surratt is super familiar with Robert Saleh after playing with the Jets, and he joined the Niners late this offseason. He played quite a bit last year. He appeared in all 17 games for the Jets, and he got 5 starts. He was a fascinating prospect coming out of University of North Carolina, actually. He started his career at quarterback, but switched to the defensive side of the ball his junior season after he didn't get any playing time. He's 28 years old now, so he's probably just about hit his ceiling, but Surratt could definitely make a run at one of those depth linebacker spots. It's a really crowded position. He's got a lot of competition, and he'll have to play great to set himself apart, but Surratt's a talented guy, and I think out of all the players we've talked about so far today, he's got the best chance of making the 53-man roster. At number 70, I have Chase Lucas, the cornerback. Lucas started his career with the Lions as a 7th-round pick in 2022. Last year, he joined another 2022 7th-round pick, Brock Purdy, on the Niners, although Lucas spent the last year on the practice squad. Lucas is a nickel cornerback who has not played a ton in his NFL career. He's never started a game, and we've never seen him play in the regular season with the Niners. But at 28, he is a veteran depth option at nickel corner. And if there are injuries at that position, you could probably do worse than Chase Lucas as a replacement. I expect Lucas to probably be back on the practice squad this year, but definitely a candidate to be called up if there are injuries at corner. The final name that I want to talk about today is number 69, edge rusher Jonathan Garvin. Now, if you watched 49ers preseason games last year, you may remember Garvin. He made a few nice plays, and he had honestly quite a bit of buzz last August as a potential sneaky 53-man roster add. He ultimately lost his spot to Robert Beal, and he spent the year on the practice squad. I like Garvin quite a bit personally. I think he was one of the better players on the practice squad last year, and if it were up to me, I would have given him the 53-man roster spot over Robert Beal Jr. And I'm backing that opinion up right now by putting Garvin over Beal on my list today. Garvin is 6'4", he's 257 pounds, and he's a really powerful rusher. He can really make an impact in the pass game and defending the run. He's definitely inconsistent, but his upside is higher than anything that I've seen so far from Robert Beal. So that concludes another installment of the roster ranking series. Is there anyone that I'm too low on, too high on? Who do you think will be ranked number 1 on my list? Let me know down below. Leave a comment, leave a like, and let me know if there's any topics that you'd like to see me cover. Thank you all for watching, and subscribe for 49ers videos 5 days a week. I'm Brady Grustas, at GrustasBrady on X. This has been Niners Now, and I'll see you tomorrow.